You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. For those of you who are unaware of what just happened, I got this, Jay. He's sitting in the background going, wait, why are things happening the way they're happening? Because I already clicked them. Anyway, this is in stores this week with me and Dan and Jay, except Dan's not here because Dan is being Dan. No, I'm kidding. Dan is taking the night off, a much-deserved night off after I take all these nights off, and he never takes any. And he's just like, hey, I need a night off. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, but like, and I'm like, take the night off. And then he sent us all these books to read. We had like 13 books this week. And so Jay and I read them all. And then Dan's like, I'm not going to be there. And I'm like, yeah, I know you told me. So Jay and I read 13 books. And Dan's taking the night off. That's basically a long way around to saying, this is in stores this week, where we talk about new books that are in stores this week. So let's talk about books that are in stores this week.
Best intro ever.
Did that get too convoluted?
Nah, that was awesome.
I felt like it might have got too convoluted. I don't know. I just went with it. It's the problem. I don't pre-write these things. Like last night, we're doing talking shop, and like Jenna's got notes written out about what she's gonna say in the intro. And, like she's prepared, and I know Miss Jen does the same, and like I know Dan comes up with stuff ahead of time. And I just get here and be like, oh, the camera's on. Hi. How you doing?
It's great. It's great.
No, it's true. It's maybe I should write some stuff down once in a while, but my pen is like way over there on the other side of this table, and I'd have to like sit up.
Sometimes it trips you up too.
Oh,
you write stuff down.
Oh, believe me, I always tell people not to write stuff down, and then they're like, "But I should write stuff down, right?" And I'm like, "No." So, well, when you're public talking, like if you write stuff down, you tend to get robotic. Whereas if you don't write stuff down, you have to be fluid. Yeah. So what I always tell people is write bullet points, right, and then figure out how to make your bullet point into a sentence. So when I take notes, it's like good. Bad. Not enough blood. Well, those are not sentences. I have to figure out how to make those into sentences. And those are some of the notes I have on the books that we read this week.
Oh, goodness.
It's going to be a special night.
Yeah. It'll be a good time.
What's up, Sean Butler? Say hi, everybody, when you get here. Sean Butler just called me, but it wasn't Sean. It was really funny. So should we start with books, or should we pontificate on circular reasoning some more?
I think we should probably start with some books.
Okay. Let's start here with the book I least understood this week. Armor Clads #3 from Valiant Comics. It is written by, and I should have done this ahead of time and opened the notes for this part. I do have notes on this part just because I can't remember people's names. This is written by Brian Bucoletto and J.J. O'Connor, with art by Brian Bucoletto and Miguel Sepulveda. So, I never read #2. That's why this book made the least sense to me. I'm going, I've clearly missed a thing. That thing seems really relevant. I don't know what's happening.
So this is a really good story, but the 3 issues we've read so far, at least I've read so far, almost feels like the same thing. They walk, they get into a fight with something, They walk and they walk and they walk. I'm kind of like it. It wasn't until the very end of the book where something felt like it actually happened. And when I saw what I saw, now my heart wants to be like, oh, you know what that is, because that's going to connect it to the bigger Valiant universe. But my brain's like, no, that's probably something completely random. Because I'm wanting this somehow, because they haven't done it yet, to connect it to the bigger Valiant universe like they do every other book. And it still hasn't happened yet.
And I think for me, that would have been a touch point, right, in this book, if we'd been reading it and Exo Manowar shows up, or we'd been reading it and, you know, Ninjak shows up, or something that is oh, hey, there's a Valiant thing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the stuff that's happened before, while relevant, is going to be less relevant than what happens going forward. But because that wasn't a thing, I just was like, huh? So
I mean, it's a good book, but I hope I'm getting impatient, you know? Let's get to it.
it's true.
It's like people who complain about the Lord of the Rings movies where the first one is just them walking the whole time. That's kind of
Aren't all three of them just them walking the whole time?
Yep, and that's kind of like how this book is right now.
Like, okay, so funny story. I've only ever seen the second Lord of the Rings movie.
Return of the King?
I don't know. The second Lord of the Rings movie.
Two Towers.
I don't know. The second Lord. Like,
Okay.
This is what I know. I've seen the second one.
Uh-huh.
And I only saw that because my friends had tickets to go see it on an IMAX screen, and somebody fell out. But they bought the 3-pack for all 3 movies on 3 consecutive weeks. And somebody couldn't go the second week. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I've not read the books. Not seen them. So there's the second one. I'm like, hey, why are those guys riding a tree?
You might have missed.
Like, shut up and enjoy the movie. I'm like, yeah, but I have so many questions.
Yeah. That's got to be exactly how you felt reading this, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, and I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 miles, and
that's kind of how it feels. It feels like a very repetitive thing right now. They walk a little bit, they make it to an outpost, they fight. They walk some more, they make it to an outpost, they fight. Like I'm really, I mean, it's a good story, but something has got to happen.
Right.
But you know that thing at the end, that's what's going to get me. That's still like, okay, I want to read the next issue because I want to find out what it is.
Yeah, no, I think I'll keep reading it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not going to be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
There's a book on here where I'm like, I'm done. But I'll keep reading this one, but it just feels super like, I don't know, like I'm jumping into the middle of a conversation that other people are having. So, all right. This is Bell.
Labyrinth?
Yes, Bell Labyrinth #1 from Xenoscope Comics. Written by Dave Franchini. And I made a promise to myself that I remember who the interior artist was, and then I forgot. So, interior art by someone. Go ahead, Jay.
So, pretty good art. It's very weird. I'm used to Xenoscope having the standard of art, but it feels like the last couple books we've gotten from them, there are parts where it's really, really good, and then there's other parts where it's not so good. But you know, this is another one of those books that, although it's a one shot, or is it a one shot?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I could double check though. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no solicitation for #2.
Okay. Well, this is one of those books that's like, well, if this is supposed to be a one shot, I can't remember how many times I counted down at the bottom of the panel, to find out about this, read this. To find out about this, read this. And that happened a lot in this story.
Right.
And I was like, well, it didn't take away from the story, but I still felt like there were certain things I was like, if I would have read this, I might know a little bit more about what's going on.
Right.
This was, though, one of the first Xenoscope books that we've read in a while that wasn't an annual or something like that, where it wasn't a big crossover episode.
Right, or it wasn't an anthology where it wasn't 3 stories in one book.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was just Belle and her friend. I'm kind of glad it was just her. This is another one of those characters. When it comes to the Xenoscope stuff, I usually read things like the Tales of Terror and things like that. I don't read too many of the characters. So, I mean, this was cool. This was cool to read. It's another character to find out about, and that's what I enjoy reading the comics for. Character I don't know, I'll go and look them up, look up other books, other stories they've been in, things like that. But overall, it wasn't a bad story. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing about the Belle series has always been they've wandered too far from Belle Beast Hunter. They've wandered too far from this is Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Like, you get too far away from your original intended mythos, and you've just created another generic Xenoscope woman character. And this is a thing I say about Dynamite books too, right? Like, if you take Vampirella and you move too far away from that basic Vampirella mythos, you've just created hot chick not wearing anything.
Yeah.
And while that can be good, it's not great. It's not what you really are going to want in a series. And that's kind of how I feel about this, right? Like, I like the character. I like the story they told. I thought it was a good story. I thought the art was good. I thought everything about this was good, but it's like, who is this person? And we're supposed to connect the two, that this is the same Belle from Belle and Beauty and the Beast. I don't make that connection.
This feels like it could have been any one of the characters we've read.
Yep. Absolutely. So, all right. Next up, and you're going to absolutely have to put your jaw back on your face when I say this.
Okay.
I'm done.
You know what? Here's the weird thing for me on this one. Okay. Granted, this was kind of boring to me, but it was still better than the first House of Slaughter y'all had me read. I thought this story was at least a little better than that House of Slaughter we read the first time when I joined. That being said, though, not reading any except for the 2 issues, number 20 and 21, I think, of Something is Killing the Children, I'm completely lost on all these masks and stuff.
So, Something is Killing the Children is a modern day masterpiece. I don't think anybody's going to argue that point. House of Slaughter is Mona Lisa, is Da Vinci painting the Mona Lisa's sister. Right? It's, you have Whistler's mother and Whistler's aunt. Like, it ain't as good. It just isn't. And I hate to speculate this, but I think Tinian is spread too thin. Right? I think he's doing too much, which is the virtue of being great is that you get asked to do a lot. The negative of being great is that sometimes you get asked to do so much, you can't do it all well.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with what Sean is saying. You know, that he's saying the second half dozen issues weren't as good. I disagree. I think the series as a whole is phenomenal. House of Slaughter doesn't just need to end. I think House of Slaughter needs to start making it make sense with Something is Killing the Children. Instead of trying to tell this other universal story, instead of telling this prequel or this whatever this is supposed to be, because it's supposed to be a prequel.
Oh.
It needs to start saying, here are your direct lines, right? Here is how point A gets you to point B, gets you to point C. And bringing this into the universe of Something is Killing the Children. And if it's not going to do that, then yes, I think it needs to reevaluate its role. But when I say I'm done, I will not be picking up any more single issues after this one. What I will do is get the trades. And only because the weight of Something is Killing the Children carries it enough for me to invest in the trade. So I knew that would be a little shocking for some people, like, because I have been so high on these books, but that book is like that thing. You ever eat so much chocolate you make yourself sick?
Yeah.
Like it's that 7th Hershey bar. It's kind of how that one felt. Like you ate a whole pack and now you're going back for another. You're going, you know what? This is a bad decision, but try and stop me. That's what that felt like to me. All right. John Carter, Warlord of Mars, #2. Again, I believe this was a book y'all read when I was in the hospital.
Yes.
I don't know what's happening, but I will say this. I was not a fan of the art. Doesn't feel John Carter, Warlord of Marsian.
Look at that cover. I like the story, but I think I would like the story even more if that's what the art looked like.
Yes.
But whatever Netflix or Disney's Tangled series art they're using for this does not work for this story for me. I do like the story, but the art, like, and I'm not usually that person that's like, the art's not that good, I can't get into the story. For some reason, this art, although I don't hate it, I just don't like it for this. And for some reason, it takes me out. And I'm just like, man, why can't the art look like this cover? That would be amazing. This book would be much higher on my list.
Right. Now, this book is technically a release for next week.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough. Written by Chuck Brown. Art by George Cambadesis. The cover feels like the kind of cover you'd get on an Edgar Rice Burroughs book. The interior feels like a cover you'd get on a Jeff Smith book. Or feels like the art you would get on a Scotty Young book.
Yeah.
Feels almost too immature or too cartoon. I hate to do this to my buddy Seth the Moose, because this is his line. Too cartoony for the content they're making.
Yeah.
So overall, the story was solid.
Yeah.
But I don't have enough front-loaded knowledge from reading issue 1 to fully understand what issue 2 is trying to do. Hopefully, issue 2 will get me enough info for issue 3.
Yeah.
All right. This next book is a lot of recycled material. I didn't actually have to read this book because I read these stories the first time they came out. This is TMNT, The Best of the Rat King. So this is some of the greatest hits of the character the Rat King from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Can you hear them cutting the grass right now?
A little bit. Life happens, man.
They had the whole last hour to get away from here, but no, they're got to do it right now while I'm on the air. So this is really just a setup for the Armageddon game story that's coming, which is the next big Turtles event. And so knowing that ahead of time really helps with kind of the understanding of what this book is supposed to be. But this is, and I'm pulling it up so I can tell you here. Because it's not about Raph, dude. This is Tales of TMNT number 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 11, and TMNT number 36. There's some editing, don't get me wrong, to this book, but these stories I read when they originally came out, and they didn't change them enough to make them super different in an effort to tell a story about the Rat King so that you know who he is before the next series happens.
The first story definitely looked like the Rat King I remember, because this one terrified me first time I saw it. This one terrified me, but the one they showed at the beginning, that's the one I remember from, like, well, he had more hair in the cartoon, but I really like the first story. When we get to the Adventures one, that's about as far as I got. The Adventures one, the art again, the art on that one.
Well, remember that's the Archie series.
That's the Archie one. Okay.
You needed to kind of jump through that one and get to the third one. Which is the IDW Kevin Eastman story. So this is a tough one, right? If you're not a huge Turtles fan, if you're not a huge Rat King fan, if you're not if you're not into this pantheon, and you're not spending, like me, a ton of time getting ready for Armageddon game, it's a little bit of a weird fit.
Yeah.
I don't imagine people are going to pick it up just to pick it up. They're going to be into it for other reasons. So, next book is a book that I did not like at all.
Oh.
This is The Wrong Earth Purple number 1. Written by Stuart Moore with art by Fred Harper. I think my problem is this. I don't like the Dragonfly.
Oh.
He's not a superhero that I find interesting. I thought the story was good, but I would have loved to have seen it with Batman. Or, a different character that I just find more... He almost feels too tickish.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I thought the villain was actually more interesting. I really dug the villain, and his choice of weapons was cool.
Right.
I did find that the little angel and devil conversation, that was kind of funny.
Right. But, I thought it was well written. I just think the superhero is not appealing, right?
Yeah. Is there one of the books, because I know this is supposed to be Earth Kappa, is there any version of this character that you've read that you've liked? Or is it just the character itself? There
was the book we read, The Wrong Earth, a couple weeks back, where you were jumping back and forth between him and, like, regular Earth and Earth XM, where one was a good guy and one was a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking then this character is just ham-fisted. I feel like it again. It's like, it really does feel like, in the first episode of the series, The Tick, where Arthur meets the superheroes that then get killed by the big baddie in The Tick.
Yeah.
Like everything is just so ham-fisted and overdone and almost comedically eccentric that it isn't fun. And I get why they do that, and I get why they're going with this. They're going that route with this. But I would have loved to have seen a more, and I hate to say realistic superhero, but a more natural superhero.
Mm.
And I feel like this character's voice is, well, I guess you got me this time.
Oh man. I think one of the funniest parts is, well, for one, you can't say Ahoy doesn't make at least interesting comics.
Correct.
I really enjoy after the book, in like the what is it called? There's
prose bits.
Yeah, there's the nightlife and of Fortune City in the 1980s, and it has like the drink lists and stuff. And they have the one that's called I'm used to going out at 3 a.m. and doing stupid things. That was a drink they had.
Right.
Some of the drinks made me chuckle. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, this is more of the bad guy was more interesting to me than the hero. I would have liked to see more.
I agree. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like Ahoy sometimes hits it out of the park, and sometimes it just, like, Guilt. 2 issues have been just absolutely flawless, and then sometimes it's just like, hey, let's do this thing because cocaine and LSD.
Yeah. Yes.
Not a bad thing, just not the thing All right. This week features the return of one of the most storied stories, one of the most storied comics ever published. It's the return of Jeff Darrow's The Shaolin Cowboy. This is Cruel to Be Kin number 1 of 7. Written in art by Jeff Darrow with help from Dave Stewart. Have you read Shaolin Cowboy?
No.
So when the first 6 or 8 pages are all told from the perspective of a Gila monster, you're struggling, aren't you?
To be honest, and I didn't have a whole lot of notes for this. This book was so weird, but I enjoyed it. I laughed a ton, but also there are parts where I'm like, what the hell is going on? What is this? This book is nuts. But I laughed. I enjoyed it.
Right. So I will say this for Shaolin Cowboy. If it ain't your cup of tea, it ain't gonna be. It's a very specific, like so many of these kind of Dark Horse books that you can tell what they are by the typeset of the logo, right? Like this, the Rocketeer, some of these other things that are very specific in terms of their trade dress, right? If it ain't for you, it ain't gonna be. This series has been around for an incredibly long time. It's incredibly storied. It's one of those things that's critically acclaimed, but has never really found a fan base that has supported it coming out continuously. So it keeps being short series. It's always funny, and it's always I'm always happy I read them.
Yeah.
But to throw this book at someone like Jay who has no backstory, on Shaolin Cowboy is like dropping him in Japan and asking him to speak Japanese. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So for those of you who don't know, the Shaolin Cowboy is trained in the arts of the Shaolin monks, but he's in the Wild West. Except that he's not entirely in the Wild West. He's in a dystopian Wild West where he lives in the desert apart from other people and is kind of like Wyatt Earp. Or, he's the or like Doctor Who, the one where he's like the sheriff.
Oh.
And the sheriff comes into town when he's needed. That's kind of what the Shaolin Cowboy is. Again, I love Jeff Darrow's work on this. It's been a great series. But yeah, it's the start of a new run, but it's not the place to jump in. Definitely go back if you're interested in picking it up.
Yeah.
Definitely go back and at least read the Wikipedia page or something to give yourself a little bit of a backstory.
I'm gonna have to, because I laughed hard at this book. I really liked it.
Right. Like I said, the first 6 pages are told from the perspective of a Gila monster. So,
Yeah.
Not your everyday comic.
No.
All right. Speaking of not your everyday comic, this is Bjorn, the Littlest Viking #1, words and pictures by Ben Bender. This book is from Red 5 Comics. It was originally slated to come out last week. In talking to Ben, I'm not sure that happened. Red 5 is being hit particularly hard by some of the printing shortages, printing delays, some of the import problems. Like, they're trying to get their books and trying to get them to their people. But this book should be out in relatively short order, and #2 should come out almost immediately after. So we had both books, but we're only going to talk about #1. And so, Jay, you said some things when you were talking about this before that I thought were really great. So why don't you start?
First and foremost, this book was adorable. It's funny. It's got the humor, but it also feels like it's Calvin without Hobbes. Like, that's how it felt reading it. I know if Dan was here, I would actually really love to hear Dan's thoughts on this book, mainly because he sounds like he's not really into Kitty. And this wasn't like Kitty, but I mean, it's an all ages book to me, at least.
Right.
I just can't, like, I read this one and I was like, man, I'm so glad we have that other issue. I really liked it. And when this comes out, I'm definitely going to pick this up. I really enjoyed it.
Right. The concept of Bjorn is that he is just a tiny Viking who wants things other Vikings want, action and adventure, except that he's tiny. And it all kind of goes from there, right? Like, there's a bunch of stuff that this has a very distinct Shrek feel to me, in that there are jokes that are going to be clear and apparent to grown-ups and not to children. And there are jokes that are going to be clear and apparent to children, that everyone can laugh at. There are parts of this that are going to be unique and interesting storytelling for grown-ups. And there's parts of it that are going to be goofy and, cartoony for children. It has both things.
Yeah.
Which I think is Dan's thing, right? If you're going to do an all ages book, you have to have something for all the ages.
Right.
Whereas an all ages children's book is just targeted at children. And so I get that critique from him. I don't feel like he would have that problem with this book. And I'll send it over to him and have him read it. But The thing about this book for me that I'm most looking forward to coming out of issue 1, and we have issue 2, we're just not talking about it, is kind of the development of, okay, how do you take this character that clearly is undersized, underpowered, everything is OP compared to this character, and turn him into a hero. And I feel like, that's kind of the thing that they do in things like Our Flag Means Death and The Hunger Games has a lot of that, right? Like this thing where clearly this isn't your traditional hero because they're not as endowed or enabled as the other the characters you'd expect. Right. But there's something about them that makes them different, and it's in discovering that difference that makes these books interesting.
Just a plucky kid. He's got a lot of spunk.
But I don't know that he's a kid, right? Like, is he a kid?
I don't know.
You don't know that.
That's a good question. It's very ambiguous to me.
Right. Or is he just tiny?
Yeah, could be it.
All right. This is another one that I missed the issue before, but I'm super glad I was able to catch up with this issue. This is Jennifer Blood number 8. I missed number 7. And this has been the book coming out from Dynamite right now that I have been most on, right? Like I have been all about this book now since about issue 4. Written by Fred Van Lente, art by Vincenzo Federici. And the cover you're seeing is the In-Hyuk Lee homage variant, which is a cool one to have chosen, Jay.
Thank you. I liked it.
I really like the Tim Bradstreet, the A cover.
Oh, dude, this was a hard choice, honestly. There's a lot of nice looking covers for this.
There was. So Jennifer Blood traditionally is taking on the mob. The mob in American culture these days doesn't have quite the hooks into everything that it once did in the same way. So they've modernized that in this series, and it's the cartels, which is a great way to modernize a mob story. When you think about it, I mean, that's what they did on Ozark. That's what they're doing on a lot of these shows, right? Mm-hmm. So to have Jennifer Blood do the same is fantastic. This issue felt a little Michael Bay for me. Run, shoot, run, explosion, run, hot chick, run, explosion, run, hot chick.
Yeah.
But it read incredibly quickly. It was an easy read. Mm-hmm. It was a compelling story. And I know there are at least 2 more issues of this book coming, and I'm excited to read them.
Yeah, same here. I can't remember if I joined y'all on issue 5 or 6. I don't remember which one it was, but for me, especially not knowing anything about the character, the story for me feels like it gets a little bit stronger with every issue. I do think though that it's kind of treading dangerously on the trope of partners falling in love.
Jennifer Blood traditionally has.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
Well, because when you think about it, skeezy old man, war veteran guy, hot chick.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not always necessarily reciprocal.
Yeah, there's just some weird moments though. I think the issue before was him watching her doing yoga was kind of weird.
Yeah.
You know, the little hand touching the popcorn or whatever was a little awkward.
Joey
But-
doesn't share food.
But I don't know, the thing with the drug was kind of strange. But overall, even with it being a run hot chick kind of story, I'm starting to come around to this book.
It was well told.
Yeah.
Even if it was a little Michael Bay for me.
Yeah.
I would like to go like run, hot chick explosion gunfight. Run, hot chick explosion gunfight. Like instead of so much running and being so ADHD about it.
Yeah.
All right. The last 3 books we have are not coming down in the order I thought they were going to come down when I started today. I figured I knew which book was going to be my favorite. And I knew which of these other 2 books because I was certain these were going to be the top 3. Because I think they're the 3 strongest books to come out this week. I didn't think they would go in this order. Alice Ever After number 2.
This, I'm really getting into the story, but it's a sad one.
Mm-hmm.
It's depressing. It's one of those that when I want to feel sad, when I just have that day where I just want to cry or just feel bad, I would read this. And I mean that in the best way possible. I know it doesn't sound like that, but this book, and I feel like it's going to get so much worse before it even remotely starts to get better.
Right. This book does a good job of altering your emotional stability and changing your brain chemistry. It's written by Dan Panosian, with art by, and I keep forgetting these things I told myself I was going to remember, so I didn't have to look them up during the show. Written by Dan Panosian, art by Giorgio Spatella. The art in it is just bat crap crazy. So good.
Yes.
This issue felt weaker than the first issue to me because clearly they're setting up what happens in the third issue.
Right.
You're starting to see some of what we've known about Alice's world unravel a little bit. I don't know if you caught on to some of the real life people who are maybe not real life people or vice versa in her brain.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see where they're going with issue 3. But yeah, don't read this one if you're not, if your brain doesn't make a regular amount of dopamine and serotonin. Maybe don't read this one unless you're on your medications.
Yeah.
Count Crowley, Amateur Midnight Monster Hunter number 2 by David Desmelchin and Lucas Kentner. I honestly would have bet all the money in my pocket that this was going to be my favorite book this week.
It was up there for me. It was definitely up there. It was a fun read, and I love Desmalchin as an actor. But honestly, if he just retired from acting and wanted to write comic books, I would be cool with that. I think he's so good in this. I don't know if there's has he ever written anything else, or is this like the first thing he's ever done?
He wrote one other thing.
Okay. Well, be that as it may, this is great. I really enjoy it. It's got a very 70s cartoon, Fright Night, and even in the title, Midnight Monster kind of feel to it. I'm hoping that the last, because this is 2 of 4. Yeah. I'm hoping that the last 2 issues hold up as well as these 2 did, because the second issue for me was just as good as the first one. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. This has been fantastic. And he has said he would love to never have to stop writing this story. So I'm here for that.
Yes.
This was fantastic. It was a great look at a traditional camp monster story, right? When you think Elvira, when you think Svengoolie, when you think any of those late night, black and white horror movie, cable access kind of shows, these are the stories they're telling in those movies. Except that now you have that whole thing meted out.
Yeah.
Right? So it's somebody who's making that show is living in that world that the movies are portraying, but they're living it in their real lives, and it's zoomed out a couple of layers, and it gets really interesting. There's an introduction at the end of this book to a character that we met in the first book, but he's a reintroduction at the very end of the book that really does set you up for kind of a, when we return, our thrilling finale.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, and then the book this week that I flew through, thought it was absolutely the best book of the week. Breakout #2 by Zach Kaplan. And art by Wilton Santos. This is a Dark Horse book. The end of Ocean's 11 where they show you how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got that vibe from this book,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
except it's early on in Ocean's 11 where they're going, we need the thing that's going to dig the tunnel, and we need the thing that's going to do this, and we need you to go there, and we need this and that, and we need all of this, and there's clearly details they're leaving out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, I can't wait for it to all culminate.
Yeah.
And you get to the end of the book, and it's I just keep waiting for somebody to say, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. Now, I feel mostly the same way you do about this book. I feel like it probably could have been 5 pages shorter, or could have gotten towards the end a little faster. And I know this is probably a setup issue for the third issue. These 2 issues have been like a very slow burn to me. Like, I read through them fast, fine, love the story, but it feels like a very slow burn before we're getting to, hopefully this is about to ramp up in that third issue.
Right.
But I would suggest to anybody, read this. It's really good. It's really good.
See, I hear what you're saying, and the reason I don't necessarily agree is that in the kind of story they seem to be going to tell, like the bank heist story, you have to build the foundation, right? Like, and I'm going to go back to the A-Team reference. There was always that, okay, they show up to the orphanage where the local, bad guys are, harassing the nuns or whatever they're, whatever's happening in the A-Team. And then there's that music montage where they're going bum 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 bum, and they're tearing beds apart and building guns out of them.
Yeah.
Like, where they're MacGyvering their plan. That's laying that foundation so when the action does eventually happen, it all is paying off something. So I get that they're laying the foundation. What I'm wondering for my money, it's a 4-issue series, or at least it's solicited to 4. I think there might be more than that. But if it shouldn't have been 2 or 3 issues, or if this is a 4-issue, if it shouldn't have been 3, 1 and 2 as one oversized issue, and then 2 and 3 traditionally, or the other 3 other. So 1 and 2 would be released as an oversized issue, and 3 and 4 would be regular issues.
Okay.
Something like that, or done in 2 oversized editions or 3 oversized editions, whatever it is, just so we can get to this point in one book. Because I think getting to this point in one book would have been great, and then even slowing the pace down from here. But I'm most excited to read the next issue of this.
Yeah, that's how I felt with this one too. Like I like this one, but like now I'm like, okay, issue 3, I'm ready. I'm ready now.
Right. So, well, Jay, those are all our books for this week.
Wow, it just flew by.
It really did. We didn't have Dan here.
I know.
Which,
Dan's.
if Dan would have been here, we'd had to go long.
Yeah,
not for any reason other than if you add a third opinion onto every book, you were already at 51 minutes. We just would have had to go long. Like,
yeah.
We miss you, Dan. We'll be glad to have you back next week.
Absolutely.
There were questions that I normally would have asked you about some of the storytelling in some of these books that, with you not being here, I could not ask you. So, if you're out and about this week and you're looking to pick up any of the comics you've seen tonight on The Experience, either on our show or on Meant to Skim It or anywhere else, but you're not sure where to go, head over to comicshoplocator.com and type in the zip code for where you are, and it will point you to comic shops nearby to you. And one of the great things it does is it tells you what all those comic shops participate in, right? Like Free Comic Book Day, Halloween Comic Fest, they're a library partner. They do all these other kind of things. Now, I will say it doesn't always get updated as quickly as we would like. So make sure if you are in an area, go ahead and then give that shop a Google or give them a call and make sure they're going to be open the hours they say they're going to be open and that they're going to be available the hours they say they're going to be available. Just a little tip from me to you. And we found out on the previous show, and I will reiterate it here, that there was a logistical problem getting books from Diamond to retail stores in parts of the country. So if you show up to your local comic shop tomorrow and they don't have everything you're looking for, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Okay? It ain't their fault. UPS has trouble at their hubs. Just didn't. So, just know that that's a thing yet again this week, and be kind. Show grace to the store employees and to the shop owners. It's not something they can control. So, Jay, is there anything else?
No, that was about it, man. As always have a blast doing this, whether it's you and Dan or just you or Dan. I have a ton of fun. Learn a lot of stuff too.
Wait till the week where it's just you.
Where can we what? What'd you say?
Wait till the week where it's just you.
Oh, just me? Wow.
Yeah, that'll be a fun week.
Oh yeah.
That'll be the week you have to have Sean on.
We could do that.
Yeah. You can literally throw stuff at him when he disagrees with you.
No, man, I love hearing different opinions because the world would be a boring place if we all like the same stuff.
Oh, sure, but like I also think it would be quite entertaining for you to be on one screen and him to be on another, and just see you throw a pen and then it goes past his camera. Like, that kind of stuff. Like,
that'd be an interesting show,
right? It'd be as close as we get to the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, comicshoplocator.com. Visit your local comic shop this week. For Jay and the absent Dan, I have been Kyle. There is no llama. We will see you all next Tuesday here on the Experience for In Stores This Week. Are you a comic creator? Are you a publisher? Do you make a comic book product? Do you own a retail store? Do you do something I haven't thought of? Who are you and what do you do? Let us know by advertising on the Experience and invite our viewers to patronize your product. Message the EXP on social media or email us the_EXP@yahoo.com for more details. Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the Experience is all the time.